Today, I want to share something that may completely challenge what you believe about prayer and money. It goes against much of what people are raised to think from childhood. Stop begging God for money. I understand how that sounds uncomfortable, even unacceptable at first. But stay with this idea because it comes from one of the most deeply hidden teachings within Torah tradition and Kabbalistic wisdom preserved over centuries. I am not telling you to abandon prayer. I am telling you to stop praying from the wrong inner state. Because when most people ask for financial help, they are unknowingly doing it in a way that reinforces the very lack they are trying to escape. In the deeper spiritual understanding passed through Jewish teachings, this approach actually keeps abundance out instead of bringing it in, even when the intention is sincere and heartfelt. When people pray for money, they often speak from a place of emptiness, without realizing the spiritual effect of their words. They say things like, "I am broke, I have nothing, I am struggling, I need help." In doing so, they are not just describing their situation, they are reinforcing it. Kabbalistic teaching explains a concept known as the klippah, a shell or barrier that conceals divine flow. Each expression of lack strengthens that barrier around a person's life. This is not modern mindset theory or motivational thinking, but an ancient principle found in Jewish mystical tradition. Instead of opening the channels of blessing, constant focus on scarcity tightens the sense of separation from abundance, making it feel even more distant and difficult to access over time. Within this teaching, divine abundance is described as an endless spiritual light that is always present and always flowing. It does not pause, weaken, or restrict itself from creation. The source is never the problem. The light is constant. The real question is why people experience limitation if that flow is always available. According to this understanding, the blockage is not coming from God or external circumstances like the economy or luck. It forms within the individual through repeated thoughts, spoken words, and personal identity. When someone continuously sees themselves as lacking or unworthy of abundance, they unknowingly create an internal barrier that filters out what is already being offered to them. David came to me several years ago in a very painful financial condition. He was drowning in debt, unable to keep up with basic expenses, and living under constant stress. Despite everything, he prayed every single day with strong emotion and sincerity. His words were always the same: "God, I am desperate. Please give me money. Please help me survive. Please provide for me." He continued like this for years, expecting change, but nothing improved, and his situation only became heavier. Frustrated and confused, he eventually asked why his heartfelt prayers were not being answered. I looked at him and said, "David, your prayers are being answered. You are receiving exactly what you are declaring in your own words and state." David was puzzled and asked what I meant. He insisted that he was praying for money every day because he didn't have it. I explained to him that his prayers were not actually centered on receiving money, but on repeatedly affirming his lack. Every time he said he was desperate, struggling, or empty, he was reinforcing a deeper identity of poverty. In spiritual terms, it was as if he was continuously confirming his own limitation, and life was reflecting that confirmation back to him. According to Kabbalistic understanding, this works through the principle of affinity, where similar states naturally attract each other. When a person aligns their inner identity with scarcity, they unconsciously draw more scarcity toward themselves, even while sincerely asking for change. I told David that we needed to completely transform the way he approached prayer. Instead of pleading from a place of desperation, he began shifting into gratitude. His new prayer became a form of appreciation, thanking God for the blessings already in motion, for unseen opportunities, and for provision that was unfolding. The shift was not about pretending, but about changing inner orientation. Instead of declaring emptiness, he started acknowledging abundance. Instead of closing his awareness through fear, he opened it through trust. Over time, his situation changed significantly. Within months, he found better work, then reduced his debt, and eventually built financial stability. The change did not come from words alone, but from the deeper shift in consciousness behind them. What changed for David was not just his circumstances, but his self-perception. When he stopped identifying as someone lacking and began seeing himself as supported and provided for, his external reality began to follow. The transformation came from consciousness first, and results followed naturally. This is the deeper teaching found in Jewish wisdom and mystical tradition. Prayer is not only about asking, but about alignment. When a person moves from begging into gratitude, from scarcity into awareness of abundance, they begin to open what is described as a vessel for receiving. Life responds not only to requests, but to the state from which those requests are made. From this foundation, there are essential shifts that reshape how abundance is experienced. The first is moving from begging into gratitude. Instead of focusing on what is missing, the practice becomes recognizing what is already present, even in small forms. Stability, health, shelter, food, relationships, and potential are all expressions of provision. Jewish teachings emphasize this through the idea of who is rich, teaching that true wealth is rooted in appreciation rather than accumulation. Gratitude creates a mindset of fullness, and that sense of fullness naturally invites more to flow in. The second shift is moving attention away from lack and toward possibility. Whatever the mind repeatedly focuses on becomes strengthened. So, redirecting attention toward opportunity and provision begins to reshape what is experienced externally. Instead of telling yourself, "I can't afford this," begin asking a different kind of question. How can I create this? Shift the language from limitation to possibility. Instead of repeating, "I don't have enough," start reflecting on what you already have that can be expanded, developed, or multiplied. Even small resources, skills, time, or opportunities can become the foundation for growth when you look at them correctly. And instead of identifying as broke, begin affirming a new direction. I am in the process of building generational wealth grounded in Torah wisdom. These are not just motivational phrases, they represent a deeper shift in identity. In this teaching, words are not neutral, they shape perception, and perception shapes action, and action shapes reality. Within Jewish prosperity thought, these inner shifts as the beginning of transformation long before external results appear. The third shift is moving from asking into declaring. Instead of constantly asking God for money from a place of need, the deeper practice is to begin recognizing and declaring abundance as something already flowing toward you. This is not about arrogance or denial of reality. It is rooted in the concepts of emunah and bitachon, faith and trust in divine provision. In Torah language, creation itself unfolds through declaration. The world is formed through divine speech. Let there be light, and light appears. There is no hesitation or pleading, only certainty expressed through words. Humanity, created in the image of God, carries a reflection of that creative capacity. This teaching reframes prayer not as begging, but as alignment with divine flow, where speech becomes a form of shaping consciousness and direction. From this perspective, prayer shifts from desperation into identity. Instead of praying like someone who lacks, the approach becomes praying like someone who is already connected to provision. It is the difference between a mindset of shortage and a mindset of inheritance. A person begins to speak and think as someone who trusts they are already part of an ongoing flow of blessing. This does not remove effort or responsibility. It changes the internal state from which action is taken. When someone prays from this place of trust and alignment, they are no longer reinforcing limitation, but opening themselves to perceive and receive opportunities that were previously overlooked or dismissed. Sarah's story reflects this shift clearly. She was a single mother raising 3 children while working 2 jobs just to survive. Her prayers were filled with distress, always asking for help from a place of exhaustion and lack. Nothing seemed to change, and her situation remained heavy and constrained. After learning these principles, she began to transform both her speech and mindset. Her prayers became expressions of gratitude rather than desperation. Instead of saying she could not afford things, she began asking how she could create new opportunities. Slowly, her identity shifted from struggling survival to capable creation. Within months, she received a raise, started a small business, and eventually replaced her second job entirely, moving into a level of income she had never experienced before. Mikol's experience followed a similar pattern in a business context. He owned a company with a strong product but constant financial pressure. Fear influenced every decision, leading him to lower prices, chase clients, and operate from scarcity. After adopting these principles, his internal approach changed first. He stopped praying from fear and started expressing trust in future provision. His business decisions followed that internal change. He began valuing his work correctly, attracting clients instead of chasing them, and operating from confidence rather than anxiety. Over time, his revenue multiplied significantly, eventually growing into a 7-figure business. The external growth was the result of an internal shift in identity, focus, and expectation. To apply this practically, the first step is to observe your own patterns for a week without judgment. Notice how you speak about money, needs, and limitations. The second step is to consciously reframe those expressions into gratitude and possibility, transforming "I lack" into "I am supported and learning to expand." The third step is to begin aligning your prayers and inner dialogue with your future rather than your current limitations, speaking from the direction you are moving toward rather than the situation you are in today. This is not about pretending, but about training awareness to recognize abundance as something already unfolding rather than something permanently out of reach. Step 4 is where everything becomes real. You must begin acting from your prayers. This is the part most people overlook completely. It is not enough to change how you speak in prayer. You must also change how you behave in daily life. If your prayers are rooted in abundance, then your decisions must reflect abundance. When an opportunity appears, stop reacting with "I can't afford this," and instead ask a higher question: how can I create this? When difficulties show up, instead of freezing in fear or saying "I am stuck," begin asking what opportunity is hidden inside this situation. Your actions must match the inner state you are cultivating. This is how the inner barrier is weakened. This is how the spiritual vessel is formed. And this is how you begin to receive what has been available to you all along, but could not fully enter your life before. Let me leave you with a deeper Torah truth that ties everything together. According to Jewish teaching, God desires your success. He does not resist your prosperity, He supports it. The vision is not poverty or limitation, but blessing, stability, and the ability to build something lasting for future generations. The Torah repeatedly speaks about this reality, including the promise that divine blessing will rest upon the work of your hands. Wealth, in this understanding, is not rejected by God. It is meant to flow through aligned effort and faith. The limitation is not in the source of abundance, but in the capacity to receive it. A closed mindset cannot hold open blessings. A life built around lack cannot fully contain expansion. This is why the internal work matters so deeply. Instead of approaching life from a place of begging, the transformation happens through gratitude. Instead of reinforcing scarcity, you begin reinforcing abundance. Instead of speaking as someone who is disconnected from provision, you begin aligning with the identity of someone already supported and guided. In this way, prayer becomes more than request. It becomes alignment, and alignment becomes the foundation for action, and action becomes the channel through which change enters your life. This is the core idea preserved in Kabbalistic thought. The external world responds to the internal vessel that is formed within a person. This teaching is the ancient Jewish wisdom of prosperity that has been preserved and passed down through generations. It is not separate from daily life, it is meant to be lived, and now it is in your hands to apply. The challenge is simple but powerful. Take one recurring prayer of lack that you have been repeating and consciously transform it into a prayer of gratitude and abundance. Begin expressing that new prayer every morning for the next 30 days with intention and awareness. Allow it to reshape not only your words, but your decisions, your expectations, and your actions. When your inner world changes, your outer world begins to respond in ways that may surprise you. As you move forward, act from that same state of abundance in everything you do. Let your choices reflect trust instead of fear. Let your mindset reflect possibility instead of limitation. And as this shift unfolds, you may begin to notice new doors opening in places you once felt completely blocked. If this message resonates with you, reflect on what prayer of lack you are ready to transform into gratitude and share it. Sometimes expressing that shift is the first step in making it real. Continue exploring these teachings and remember this central truth. Stop living as though you are waiting to be filled, and start living as someone already connected to the source of blessing. Peace to you.